most meaningful experience with a student is actually one of my current students right now. Her older sister reached out to me and let me know that she was going to come into my program. And she warned me that she was very different. I teach manufacturing and computer science. So Anais came into my program. She was too young to begin the computer science courses, but she took manufacturing, and on that first day she told me, I want to study networking, computer science, and cryptology, which I thought was a very big goal for a freshman in high school. Over the last 4 years, I've worked closely with Anais to help her achieve these goals. She helped me start a robotics team. We have the RCA Radical Robotics team that's made up of middle school and high school students. She's the president of our Career Tech student organization, where she goes and competes every year at the region and state level. She's actually starting this summer. She's going to Georgia Tech, and she will be studying computer science and networking, and she's still thinking about the cryptology.
I did a service learning project called The Marketplace, where we brought a local nonprofit. It was Extra Special People. They came in and just really did a beautiful job of explaining what disabilities were, but how these people were beautiful and meant to be a part of our lives, and we were meant to be a part of theirs. And I had a child after that visit. Right after school, they begged their dad to go to Extra Special People and say, what can I do to help? Can I be a counselor? Can I just hang out with the kids? It was just so rewarding to see that something that I had brought to my students was something that they were leaving my classroom with. We raised around $1,500. All of the money that they raised went to ESP. In that child, I chose, because of his just beautiful compassion coming from a second grader, he was the one that gave the check to the nonprofit to do project-based learning. It's amazing. I feel like all children deserve a learning environment like that, where they can come up with designs. They can come up with ideas, experiment with them, take risks, fail, and bounce back, because the solution, what they come up with in the end when they finally do succeed, is so much sweeter than what's found on a worksheet.
I think back to my first year teaching. I started teaching 8th grade, and that year, at the end of the year, I gave all of my students a key, like a physical key. And of course, at first they were all like trying to unlock the classroom door, and and on there was a poem, a message from me to them, and it said, "You are the key to your success." So they, of course, that was several years ago, and time went on, and then about 4 years ago, I got a message from one of those students that was in my very first class, and he said, "I still have the key that you gave me, and I'm graduating from college, and I'm going to be an engineer, and I finally understand what you said. Thank you for believing in me and helping me to know that I am the key to my own success." And that's what it's all about for me. That's why I'm a teacher, is because just the opportunity we have to influence lives and to champion students.
I had a student who joined my classroom from another school the previous year and was performing a lot lower than she expected or her family's expected. And we worked all year long in just learning how to believe in ourselves. And I tell my kids, sometimes confidence is half the battle. If you believe in yourself, you're more likely to succeed than if you're doubting yourself. So at the end of the year, she went from one of the lowest performing categories to the highest performing category that you can achieve. She wrote me a letter to thank me for all that I taught her this year, but the one thing that she was most grateful for was that I taught her confidence. And that's what matters the most to me as an educator. The academics are important, but sometimes it's more of the heart, things that matter. And I know that she's learned how to be confident in herself, and now she can achieve whatever she sets her mind to, and she has. Now she was gone from having intermediate and enrichment math classes to now she's in advanced math classes and is succeeding just 2 years later. And so she still comes to visit me, and she always says, "I love you, Miss Blum." and that's something I'll never forget.
I had a student in my class named CJ, and when he came, he was homeless, he was angry, he was violent, and he came in and made friends and learned how to love and learned how to see himself differently. He had become such close friends with his friend Bradley that on the very last day, he cried, and he cried for hours. He couldn't stop crying, and he said, "I'm out of water, Miss Florence, why am I crying like that?" And I said, "Those are tears of love." And then his best friend took a trip to Kentucky on the very last day of school, and his mom said the whole trip, he cried and cried. It was such a rough trip, and I said, "Why?" And he said, because he was so worried about his friend CJ and what was gonna happen to him, because he couldn't bear to go on this trip without knowing that his friend was gonna be okay. And so to me, it's building those bridges between students where they would be unlikely pairs, but that they see each other differently, and the way that it can transform a child who just needed a good reboot, needed a good teacher in a good class who would just see the good in his heart and help him get back to who he really wanted to be and leave all the old things behind.
My student Elmer, when he came to kindergarten, did not know very much English at all. And he was very shy and very solemn. It was just hard getting him to speak at all. We tried all kinds of strategies of calming and confidence, and he came to first grade, and some of the same stuff. He would say, "I can't do this, I can't read, I can't write," and just talked very negatively about himself. Throughout the course of his first grade year, he started coming out of his shell. So when I told my class that I was nervous about speaking today and doing an interview, and Elmer said, "But Miss Anglin, it's okay, we can do hard things." And for him to say, you can do it because I can do it, and that was just, it was a bit meaningful moment for me.
Just one student that stands out is one that she has a lot of anxiety, and I teach her right now, and she kind of hides behind her hair. Even when we gather, I say, "Come on down," and sometimes she'll sit on the floor, and I'll say, "I need you to sit in a stool. I want you to be in the gathering area." And she actually wrote me a note this week, and she said that she wanted me to know that I'd impacted her more than any teacher because I see her, and I've given her confidence. And I never would have known that had she not written me this letter, but honestly, it meant so much to me to know that even those that I think I'm not reaching, you never know what kind of impact you're having on a student. Just how important it is for educators to remember that they are making an impact, even when they don't see it. Students are being impacted all the time by the work that they do, by the words that they say, even by the hugs they give, or noticing a student in the room. Just saying their name when they walk in the door, the little things can make such a big difference.
This particular young man was in my class, and he was not doing well in math. He could not seem to get it together. So I worked with him, I talked with him, I encouraged him, we supported him, and I really tried to explain the concept of mathematics to him to help him understand that you're doing it all the time. It really is this easy. Let me show you how easy it is. And so after a while, he got it, and every time I would see him in the hall, he would give me a big hug. "Hey, Miss Knox, hey, Miss Knox." So during his testing, I just give a really quick speech to the students and tell them to do their very best. Only think about the task that is in front of you. As long as you can feel good about what you've done, great. So he was working diligently. He went from 2 or 3 grade levels below all the way to 5th grade level. He was so elated, and he hugged me and he looked at me and he said, "You know what, Mrs. Knox? I didn't want to let you down. That's why I focused and did my best." I cannot even tell you how much that meant to me, that he thought enough of me to do that well on his exam. And it was for him, of course, because he gained all of the benefit from really working hard and paying attention to the task before him. So that was one of the many beautiful experiences that I've had with my students.
I was driving through the McDonald's drive-through several years ago, and I went to pay for my meal and I heard someone just scream, and I looked up at the window to see who it was, and I realized it was Taylor, a student that I had had several years ago in my 7th grade math class. And I was so surprised that she was excited to see me, because every day she walked into my classroom for 180 days with a scowl on her face, and she rolled her eyes, and she didn't seem to enjoy math or me at all. She went on to tell me that she is going to Columbus State University, and then those next few minutes she told me that she wanted to be a 7th grade math teacher because I had touched her life, and she wanted to do that for students of her own one day. And so that is something I will remember forever. I didn't think I had made any difference whatsoever in her life. I would have never known if I hadn't seen her that day.
In 2017, the band was invited to march in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And that was a trip of a lifetime for a lot of kids. Many of our students had never left the state of Georgia, except for maybe on a band trip. Most of our students have never been on an airplane. So this was a first-time experience for a lot of our kids. We got to New York in 2018 to march in the parade, and a couple of our students were just in awe of the buildings and how tall everything was and how fast-paced everything was. And a kid came up to me and my colleague at the time and was talking about how thankful she was for the opportunity to see this. She knew in that moment that there was more to the world than the little town that she grew up in. She knew that there was a whole world out there for her to explore. And you know, the curriculum is hugely important, and graduating from high school is the goal, but the little moments like that along the way where you get to see kids have their lives changed and their lens just open up a little bit more, that's pretty cool. That's kind of why we do what we do.